Welcome to Thrive in Design, a podcast about making money in beautiful interiors as it relates to product-based businesses in the interior design industry. Each week, we'll discuss innovative strategies on how to approach product development and design sales in a shifting market. I'm your host, Nicole Lachey Ben. So without further ado, let's get to why we are here today. Session 3, part 3 of our Road to NeoCon series. And we have the Tarra Avila, the visionary behind Network NextGen, CEO and founder. Network NextGen is a vibrant community connecting emerging interior designers and architects in their 20s and 30s with leading design brands and manufacturers. You curated live and virtual experiences. Network NextGen fosters authentic conversations around work-life balance, inspiration, and the future of design. With events in 18 plus markets across the country, they're creating spaces where designers walk away feeling inspired, informed, and more connected than ever. So let's welcome Tarra.
So fun, Nicole. Thanks for having me. I'm so pumped to be here.
Yes, thank you for being here, Tarra. I'm excited. Tarra, you and I had the pleasure of connecting online first.
Yeah.
Just like true millennials. And then I got to come to Chicago to be on your podcast and your YouTube channel. And I feel like a good friendship is forming now that we're both mothers too. So.
Oh yeah, all the things. It's been fun to watch us both as we've evolved and grown. And that's kind of the beauty of our industry, right? There's so many great people and we're all kind of doing this thing together. So it's fun, very special.
Yes, excited. So let's dive into this conversation. And as we've been sharing that this conversation is going to happen, people have been messaging us and commenting on our posts like, oh, we want to hear what Millennial and Gen Z has to say. Yes. Especially from the brands, but they want to know how can they resonate. So let's first talk about generational shift in design. At Thrive in Design, we're always exploring how designers drive decision-making. What trends are you seeing in how Millennial and Gen Z designers approach their careers and the design process differently?
Yeah, it's kind of a huge shift, actually. And I think there's a couple factors that play into it. So obviously we had this huge pandemic. I don't know if anyone remembers. It feels like yesterday, but also it was 5 years ago, even though it lasted forever. I still feel like we're feeling the fallout of it. But yeah, that in itself was a huge generational shift. So pre-pandemic, we would hear people talk about the gap that kind of the recession created, right? So you had this huge group of people that left the industry during the recession in 2009, 2010, 2011. And it created almost this gap of young people coming in, people who had left the industry, and then people at the top of the industry, right? So there was this gap. And so we heard about that a lot. A lot of the millennials didn't have mentors. They were getting thrown into leadership positions. And there was just this very obvious generational gap. Then you had the pandemic happen. And if you think about it, a lot of those people graduating, and we have people who attend our dinners who graduated 2021, 2022, even during the pandemic, right? They were not even in college, their studios were online, so if you start thinking about just even the design school experience, what that gap and that pandemic did was it created all these students going to school virtually and not even having some of those same internship experiences. They didn't have a lot of face-to-face moments. They didn't have that mentorship. So then they got out with this whole new world perspective as the world shifted. So what we're seeing with a lot of our Gen Z designers is this new kind of philosophy on life, which I think is exciting, but I can see how older generations are a little concerned, right? There's the positives, negatives. So I see a lot of the Gen Z and even some of the millennials that were affected by that. They're really focused on work-life balance. Okay. As we all are. So whenever someone starts to really dive into this topic and get upset, I'm like, yeah, but we all kind of shifted this way, right? Industry before pandemic, you were going to events 2 or 3 events a night. Reps were constantly staying out till 10, 11 every night entertaining. This new generation came out and was used to being at home. They were used to doing things online. They weren't used to that pace. And so I think there was a little bit of a social networking kind of culture shock there, but also they're really valuing their personal life outside of work. So that work-life balance affected our industry directly just from the idea of events. Like they're not going to events as much as people used to because they've prioritized working out or being with their friends or other things that maybe new professionals didn't value as much, if that makes sense. So reps are kind of in this weird spot of like, we want to entertain, but they're reacting differently. And I don't think it's as personal as people think. I think it's more that shift from the pandemic, if that makes sense. That's the big one that I'm saying.
Yeah. And one thing you just said is not as personable as people think. So what are you seeing that reps are doing that's not landing well, I guess?
I think reps, I don't think they're doing it intentionally, but I do think that like consistent follow up of like, we have to meet up, we have to meet up. It doesn't land as well because designers aren't like in that mindset as much, right? Like they still want to meet up with reps. I'm not saying that they don't. I just think it's that shift of like, how do we do this with a way that shows the designer that we care about their personal life too, and we care about their time. So making their events super intentional, super focused. If a designer is taking time out now, it's not because they necessarily want free drinks. It's because they think there's something of value. So I think the mind shift from reps needs to be like, how can I deliver so much value that they like find this worth their time? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I bet too, not only value, but how does this event or time that we spent together kind of align with their work-life balance? So if it's not this happy hour culture that we're really in anymore, especially for these other generations, then what is important to them and how can you create something, an experience that aligns with that and that also offers value and then of course creates community and connection as well.
Absolutely. That's dead on. It's really the mindset shift there and getting really creative in terms of maximizing it. That's just where we're at right now, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And so with you, you've been doing these dinners for how long now? How long have you?
So we started officially 2016. I started the kind of the brand, the concept 2014, but we officially started as a business 2016. So we're like 9 years in. It's gone fast.
Yes. And you guys have been doing curated dinners. You're now doing summits and all types of curated events and programming. So tell us a little bit about the different types of programming that you do and the impact that each of them make.
Yeah, that's exciting. Okay, so our dinners are what we're known for. That's really how this concept started for Network NextGen. We were trying to figure out a way to connect the 20s to 30s in the industry in a way to speak to what I just talked about that was more meaningful. And that wasn't just standing around at an event, kind of making small talk, because that's where people feel uncomfortable and want to leave, right? They're like, I don't know about this. I'm out. So how do we create these like curated, intimate events where you do get that value, where you do meet new people? Each designer has to come by themselves. So there's one person per firm. So we get 20 firms at the table, maybe like 15, I guess, if you factor in some reps that attend as sponsors as well. But it's you come by yourself. You're forcing yourself, even as an adult, to meet new friends. That's our big push is like, you have to talk to someone new. You can't come with your work bestie. You're coming in by yourself, meeting new people. And then the topics we discuss at the dinners are really guided by the designers. So they will write in questions that they want us to chat about, and then we dive into it. And we go very personal. That's what we're known for. So people are saying things like, I have difficulty with my coworkers. I don't know how to handle a situation. I want to get a raise, but I don't know how to do it. Like I'm struggling with negotiating. Project workload is too much right now. How do you balance this many projects? Like we really dive into whatever they want to talk about, which is why I think we've done over 400 dinners. So we did a ton. So we've realized that every single dinner is different because every question is really guided by that group that night. And it's really kept it fresh, for someone like me who's done a ton of those dinners to be able to like still have a new experience every time. So people have gotten jobs out of it. Tons of people have moved cities. We're in 20 cities now. So people have moved cities and gotten plugged in right away, which is great. We've had tons of people write in about like friendships they've made, which might sound cheesy, but that's my favorite part. So just a lot has come from just putting people at a table and getting really authentic and genuine instead of just going to a happy hour, like you mentioned earlier. Like it's a lot more deep. So that's been our bread and butter. Outside of that, I looked it up because I knew I was talking to you today, and I know podcasting is so dear to your heart. Our podcast we launched in 2018. So it was when not a lot of people, like there was podcasts out there, obviously, but like not a ton of them, and so that was kind of a new experience for us. So we've done that. We did go on a hiatus a little bit and we came back. And so we have a lot of podcasting in the works, but that's always been really fun for us. We have a job board where people are posting jobs, getting jobs. And then our summits is our big launch. This past year, we did a summit this Saturday before BDNY.
Yeah.
And we have one coming up. So I know we're going to get into it a little later here, but before NeoCon, the Sunday before NeoCon, we have our second summit. The first one was about sustainability and health and wellness, and all speakers kind of outside of the industry, really fresh perspectives. This one is about career development. So we're going to kind of theme these summits around different topics that next geners want to know about. And then we have another thing, Nicole, I'm going to tease.
Oh my gosh, you have so much.
So this one's really exciting. So I can't talk too much about it, but we have something in beta right now. It's basically like a virtual NNG membership program. I can't say much more than that because there's about 50 or 60 designers testing it right now in beta. And that's really, really going to be cool. We've always wanted to be able to do more outside of just in-person events. Like, how do you have this incredible event and then take it to the next level? We're a small team. We have 3 people. Our bandwidth is small. So we wanted to create something that kind of had legs past that. So stay tuned for that. That's coming.
I can't wait to hear more about it because I can just see it now. Like all of these different cities being able to cross network on our online platform.
Absolutely. It's exciting. It's exciting. So, and the feedback's been good so far. So we're just tweaking and making sure it's the best thing possible. So,
and the thing with Network NextGen, what you're doing at Network NextGen, you have these different programs, like programming that you're creating in terms of a dinner. You have your summit, you have podcasts, you have a membership platform coming soon, but they're all really intentional and in tune with what people want. And especially what you just said, something is in beta. A lot of times people forget a testing stage. Like they'll go full out with like, well, one, they'll like, this is the way that we've been doing things for however long and think that that's still adoptable.
Yeah.
Or 2, they might think of a new idea and then forget to test it to see, hey, is this what designers really want?
Right.
Full force. So I love that you're even doing that. So I want people to pick up on that.
That's good. Even our team, we are so confident in the idea, but I was like, listen, we have to go beta because you can think that the idea is great, but until you get people, multiple rounds of people saying, I would tweak this, I don't know about that. Like, that's what we're looking for in beta for sure. So it's very important. I'm glad you saw that.
Absolutely. So now let's get into a little bit like a marketing things. So whether it's Network NextGen or it's a manufacturer that's looking to resonate with interior designers, especially those that are millennial and Gen Z, brands can do things that might land well or not land well in their go-to-market strategy. Well, what are some marketing strategies that you think might land well with younger designers or that you've seen that don't really land well anymore?
Oh my gosh. So Nicole, I saw this in my pre-notes, my prep, and I was nervous because we work with over 100 brands. So a lot of brands in the industry. But at first I was like, I can't call out certain brands. So I'll try to stay more general because I don't want to intro. We love all of them. We love all of our partners, the brands. I think the ones that land well, and we do focus groups too. I forgot to mention that. So we do focus groups for some of our sponsors and partners, and they're really, really helpful. They're an hour over Zoom, but you can tell my style's pretty like authentic. So I really push people to give real feedback. And a lot of the feedback that they have is like, they don't want it to look like everyone else, right? A tile is a tile is a tile, but how do you package that? How do you make it cool? How do you make it stand out? A lot of people love doing like factory tours, factory trips. I feel like that's one of the things people say often is like, hey, I know it's expensive and you obviously can't do it with everyone, but like this brand took the time to send me and 10 other people on this factory tour and really see how product is made. And this millennial Gen Z group, like they really are into the story. They're into the behind the scenes. They want to know what's happening back there. They don't just want the product. They want to know like, is this made well? Is the sustainability story real, on point? So anytime that brands, I think, take that next step of like giving them a tour access to the factory, telling them more about the story, like not just presenting the information, but going a little deeper. I think those are the strategies that work well. And I think there's just so many marketing campaigns that look like very see-through, right? Like if you're talking about like, we're green, you can't just say that. That's like expected. Why? How? Like designers actually want to know that information and they want it to be like like real and authentic. I think we live in this virtual world, but think about the things that do well on TikTok or Instagram. It's really more of the unfiltered, raw footage that people show that get millions of views, right? It's not necessarily this like polished image anymore. And so I think if brands can adapt to that and like pull that in, I think that's where they have success and you see things. Even now, Nicole, I don't know if you've seen a lot of brands have been doing those like introduce the team videos or like shooting themselves. And some of it's silly, right? But it sticks with you. And you're like, yeah, I saw that. That was awesome. You know, like, I think there's that level. And then there's the level of like the high artist that has this amazing artist story and like that also sticks, right? I think you're kind of playing in the really raw, unfiltered world or the like super next level forward thinking.
Yeah. But all of it is going back to telling some type of story that resonates with your audience.
Yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
Especially with like office furniture or even wall coverings, textiles. A lot of the manufacturers, they start to look the same, their collections. Like that's obvious to everybody in the industry.
Yeah.
So what is going to stand out is how you're going to be telling that story to a designer. And especially what you said in terms of the behind the scenes, how it's made. A lot of these designers, I know I went to design school. I did not learn even like 1/15 of what needs to be known in terms of materiality and specifications and all of that. So the more knowledge that a brand can pour into a designer, the better. The more they'll remember, the more times they'll specify, et cetera, et cetera. So
100%.
I like that you pointed that out. And yeah, silly stuff is important too, because at the end of the day, we're all like people that want to relate to each other and enjoy our time together, whether it's like work or not.
Really quick before we move to the next thing, I feel like more brands need to do this. And I think they're starting to, but like looking outside of our industry too is super powerful. Like when you said like campaigns that really work, like one I thought of, and I've not tried the product. So this is not me advertising it. I've not tried the product to be completely honest. But like, I think of brands like the Rare brand with Selena Gomez, right? I'm thinking of like pop culture type stuff. Like they have a very strong connection to mental health awareness, right? So like thinking about like when people think of that brand now, that automatically is what they think of with it. And so I'm like, there are amazing companies in our industry that give back so much to different organizations. But like thinking of platforms outside of just your standard, like, how do we repackage this carpet or whatever? Maybe it's more of looking outside of like, what are stories we can tell that are associated that our brand is passionate about that might not be directly product related, but starts to give a look into the brand. Does that make sense? I don't know.
That's totally makes sense. Especially with pop culture too. Another brand that I see doing really well is Coca-Cola. One of my friends actually does like storytelling for them. And every time she comes up with a new video, I'm like, oh man, that was like so on point. It had to do with the Olympics or something that was just like trending online that related back to their brand story.
And they just pulled it in. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that was genius. You could see that more in the design industry.
Yes, I agree.
Are you ready to turn your ideas into impact and your strategy into sales? Then you need to check out School of Strategy by Thrive in Design. Whether you're launching a product, starting a podcast, or looking to finally cut through the noise, these courses are built just for design-driven brands like yours. Inside, you'll find actionable lessons, guided frameworks, and insider insights that I've used with top interior product manufacturers and creative entrepreneurs. No fluff, just strategy that works. Enroll today at thriveindesign.co/school and start building the brand presence you've always envisioned. So let's talk about NeoCon. Of course, that's coming up in a couple of weeks. It's coming up so fast. I got to get myself together.
Really sad. I'm lucky because I live in Chicago, so it's like in my backyard. So that's nice. But yeah, it's fast coming up.
Yeah. So you guys have done different things over the years. A couple of years ago, you had a whole installation at the Mark, which was epic.
Yeah, that was so fun.
Tell us what you got planned for NeoCon 2025.
Yeah. So this year we're really focused on our summit that's happening. And so we kind of a lot of times with NeoCon, we're working with our partners, right? Because like our partners, we have, like I said, 100 different brands we work with, and sometimes they just need support in different ways. Every NextGener I stop, like that will see me and I'll be like, hey, what's up? They'll show me their calendar during NeoCon and it's just like meeting, like super packed. And so just to get their time and presence, like we were like, let's do a summit that's conjunction with NeoCon and Design Days. Everyone on our polls voted. We did a couple different polls and everyone voted for a Sunday before NeoCon. So there is a lot going on and we are aware of that. But we're like, while everyone is in town, how do we really get NextGeners together and create something that's a little different? And so our summit is on Sunday. It's from 10 to 4. We have different speakers and they're incredible. It's all about career development. Julie Purpura is the founder of Evanier Creative, a hospitality firm. She's going to be speaking with Jean, who founded this brand called Martha May. So the two of them together are just such a dynamic duo. We haven't even announced that. So if you're watching this,
here it is. We heard it first.
And then we have someone who's talking. She's actually a Miller Knoll rep, but she has her own company on the side that talks about personal branding and design. And so we're kind of going to the topic of like, how do you have a personal brand if you work at one of these large firms? And so very practical, tactical stuff, like you can see. During lunch, we're talking about money. So we're going to have hiring managers at each lunch breakout table that's talking about salary, negotiating bonuses, but in a small group. And then we're going to have a panel that's all about doing design differently. So it's about different career paths within the design world. So we have a designer who was in the A&D strictly like sector, and now she works at Starbucks in-house. We have someone who went to the builder developer side. We have a designer who became a rep. So like there's all these different kind of avenues in design. And something I'm really passionate about is you get a design degree and then you don't necessarily know how many doors can open for you and like what the value is. And you think I'm picking residential or commercial. And those are my two paths. So we really want to show that there's so much breadth in our industry. Your degree is valuable. There's so much you can do with it. You just have to push some doors open. So that's kind of like the crux of it. We're partnered with Room and Board, who's been an amazing partner of ours from the beginning. So it's going to be on their third floor, which is massive in Chicago, near the Merchandise Mart-ish, kind of by the Magnificent Mile, so Michigan Ave. And then we have a bunch of other brands that are a part of it too. So really excited. It's going to be fun. That's our big push. And then, of course, we have tons of partners doing amazing things. So we're going to be hopping in, doing some Instagram, some live stuff for them and promoting. And that's going to be our focus the rest of NeoCon. So
that's awesome. I can't wait to hear what comes out of this summit. I know for me, going into design school, I was like, oh, I'm going to like be a commercial designer at one of the top 10 firms in the world. And then, of course, I'm not doing that. I never did that. But I just kind of like navigated on this path and found my perfect niche of what I was supposed to be doing. But yeah, there's so many different paths that people can take post design school. So I'm excited to hear what comes out of that.
And it's a consistent question we have asked at every dinner. So we're like, how do we take all those questions and package them into these kind of summit topic driven series? So it'll be cool.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Right.
Well, yeah, I'm going to stay posted on all the things that you guys have coming up.
Please do.
So for the brands that you're working with at NeoCon, I know you said you're going to be helping support them as well. And I'm sure that ties back into helping them resonate with Millennial and Gen Z. So what are some of the tips or tricks that you give to those type of brands, especially around a trade show like NeoCon, to kind of like package themselves to increase brand awareness and resonate?
That's such a good point. I feel like, again, the idea of being different, like doing something different is what people talk about. So I don't know, a lot of reps have shifted and a lot of brands have shifted from these huge parties they used to throw all the time to more of like intimate experiences, even during NeoCon. A lot of reps are taking designers out to lunch or to dinner, or they're inviting a small group that they're taking with them and kind of allocating their funds that way. Mm-hmm. So we're hearing that more and more, which I am curious to see if that stays that way in the future, or if we can see this kind of like huge show revival. But I would say focusing on that. So even in a NeoCon setting, like who are some targets that you could really focus on that are going to the show? A lot of younger designers, they don't get paid very much.
That was one of the reasons why I never started in design. I was like, let me learn other path.
And that's like something that we need to work on. Obviously, as an industry, we talk about all the time, but even a lot of these brands now are like comping people's trips to NeoCon, so even though you want to focus on these massive, large campaigns and what are we doing on the side of the merchandise mart and whatever, those work. But like, if your target prospect is going to get a lot more out of that one-on-one time, or the fact that you flew them to NeoCon and it's such like a just kind gesture, I feel like that's what next geners talk about long term. Like at dinner, they'll talk about how a brand flew them here or how they have this fabulous lunch they wouldn't get otherwise. So yes, their schedules are packed, but thinking strategically from the beginning of the show is what you want to do, because you're going to have so much more of an effect than like really focusing on only the large, like mass blasted campaigns. If that is a good answer, I'm not sure.
No, it was. And I also want to see more brands include the designers that don't get to come to NeoCon. You can be very intentional with who you get there. And of course, you want to give them the intention that they need. But if they're a design team of like say 10 and 5 of the designers come to NeoCon, what kind of virtual experience or some type of touch point can you do to make them feel included as well? Do you have any type of special merch that you could send them in a cool box or behind the scenes tour that you can do for them virtually? I don't know, but don't leave the designers out that have got left back at the office as well.
Totally. Well, and a lot of the reps too, because we're in cities all over, right? So we're like so spoiled because Chicago's our home base. So we're like, oh, it's right down the street. But for other reps too, they'll do follow-up meetings, right? Where they're like, I'm going to do a NeoCon recap, things like that. People actually really do love. Like, it's like a good thing to do. But to your point, even like people have done some funny interviews like on the street of NeoCon or like any of that stuff that's like catchy and fun. It's fun for you to do. It's fun for people to watch. Like, I don't know, just going back to that authentic human centric concept. What do you want to see? That's what you're thinking of putting out there, you know?
I love that. You just gave me an idea too. See me outside the mart, interviewing people, come and
love it.
Well, Tarra, this has been great. We shared some really good tips of what's going on with millennials and Gen Z, what they want to see, what brands can be doing to just like resonate with these generations, both online and offline. And you shared with me here first. I feel so special that you shared what you're about to launch for Network NextGen.
Keep that on the DL.
Yeah. Is there any final thoughts that you want to share to connect with people on or offline?
Yeah, I think the design world, I think we all need to remember, and I say this at every dinner, but how special our industry is. Like, we have a very special industry with incredible people, and the people are the ones that matter. Like, they care, you know, and like, we have so many amazing reps out there that are working for manufacturers, and manufacturers care deeply. Like, I think that sometimes manufacturers and reps get a bad rap, and like 99.9% of them care so deeply and want to help and make things beautiful. And designers too are so passionate, and we just all want to help each other. And I think when you can break down some of the barriers or the stigmas and just realize we're all people trying to make this world a better place and more beautiful, like, we really have some incredible people in our industry, and we're lucky. So I think remembering that spark, and if you ever feel stuck, to look around and kind of start talking to people to re-inspire you. You don't need to go to Pinterest. You don't need to look at images. You know, you don't need to read design books. You need to see the design world at its finest. And that's really something I'm super passionate about. So being authentic, being honest, and connecting with people, like, that's really where it's at the end of the day. So
I totally agree. Couldn't agree with you more on that. Well, thank you, Tarra, for being a part of this today. All right, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation with Tarra from Network NextGen. Thanks for joining us this week on Thrive in Design. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Thrive in Design. And for more strategies on how your product company can innovate in the interior design industry, head to training.thriveindesign.co. As always, subscribe to the show to catch every new episode and leave us a review so we can continue to create captivating content. See you next week.